Hey, APCC, this is Peter. I'm here with the people who went to Bogota, Colombia, over spring break with crew. We're going to ask them a few questions and hear how their journey went. First, can you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so I'm Daniel. I am a part of Mason crew. I'm a junior at George Mason studying clinical psychology, and I think I'm good at cartwheels, but if I'm being honest with myself, I'm only average.
All right.
I'm Jacob Andrews. This is my first year at George Mason University. I transferred from the Virginia Community College system. Um, and I'm studying information technology, and this was my first time actually leaving the country or even being on a plane.
My name is Bridget. I'm one of the staff at crew at George Mason University, and I graduated from George Mason in 2018. And this was my second time going to Bogota. I got to go as a student for spring break as well.
My name is Malin. I'm also an intern at George Mason. I also graduated from George Mason in 2018, and this was also my second time going to Bogota. I also went as a student. Bridget and I have a lot in common.
All right, thanks, guys.
First question I want to ask is, what did you guys see God do in Bogota?
Yeah, so during the week, our team went to different universities in the city of Bogota. So our staff team went and we joined up with some of the Colombian students and staff, the crew staff and students who are involved in crew. And we would meet them at the universities, and then we would go start conversations with other students. And so how we would start conversations is using these things called stellarium cards. And so they have a bunch of different like random pictures on them. And we ask students like which picture would describe your life or describe who God is to you, or would describe Jesus's main message. And then they would choose a picture that represents their answer, and we would talk about it. And so a lot of the students that I talked to, they would say that they are not Christians or Catholic or anything, but they would say that their parents or grandparents identify as Christians or Catholics, but that they don't believe that anymore, and maybe don't believe in God. Some did. But we had some really great conversations through the cards, and really got to know the students. And me and a Colombian student went over, and it was her first time doing these cards, and we talked to these two other girls, and they both didn't, they grew up in a Christian family and then stopped believing, but they were really open to hearing what we had to say about Jesus, and they were very interested in it. And we could tell that it was a side of, or like that our relationship with God was something different than that they had really understood or talked about before. And it was really wonderful to see the Colombian student just really open up, and she started sharing in Spanish a lot about her relationship with God, and then asked if we could pray for one of the students. And so then we got to pray with the student, and at the end of our conversation, she was like, you guys should keep going to talk with other students and continue to do this survey with the cards with them. It's really awesome, and it's great to talk about these things. So I feel like even though we didn't meet a lot of Christians, and that was one of our goals there, God was definitely working in students' lives to open their hearts to the gospel. And it was really awesome to see students' hearts just open up to who God is.
Great, yeah. Next question I want to ask is, how did you learn, or how did you grow when you were in Bogota?
For me, the big thing was I was learning to share my faith. It wasn't something I had done much of really at all before going to Bogota. I'd had some conversations with some coworkers, but it wasn't anything I was actively going up to people and talking to, especially not strangers. So that was a terrifying experience. So God taught me to step out of my comfort zone and do that. I also learned a lot about, I guess, the similarities in the cultures between Bogota, Colombia, and United States. I had this preconceived notion of how different it was going to be, and it was different, but I wasn't really expecting the similarities, especially in the people, what they love to do. how they think about things, how just, I guess, searching for the truth. So that was what I learned and how I grew.
Right. I know there were some challenges when you guys were there. Can someone share what was one of those challenges and how did God meet you in that challenge?
Well, yeah. So by Tuesday, we landed on Saturday. By Tuesday, a lot of us had gotten sick from traveling, right? Which was just awful. Like I know that day a couple of us couldn't go out. And also on Tuesday, there was a huge hailstorm, like the first one in like 7 years, right? That actually broke the roof of the crew office building down there. So some of the students and staff people that were there went with like mops and buckets and helped like clean that out, and that was fun. But I think like the main challenge was definitely the language barrier, right? And it's just seeing that God is like bigger than all that, like either having conversations in broken Spanish or with people that like barely speak English, or just having conversations with people that even are like good English speakers, and just seeing God like work past those types of barriers was super cool. And I would also say the fact that a lot of people in Bogota had a Catholic background, so a lot of them like knew about Jesus, knew about God, but didn't really have that like concept of his grace and mercy like down, right? And just trying to explain that like past what they currently believe and like grew up believing, because like Catholicism seemed to be more of like a family cultural type thing than a religious thing. Like a lot of people were Catholic just because like it's what their family does, and they go to mass because it's what their family does. And just trying to really like talk to people and not just have them assimilate what you're saying to what they already know, but having them like hear you. And it was just, it's really cool, especially one of the students, Timmy, and I had a conversation with a couple people who actually started like arguing with each other about what we were saying, because one of them was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool, like I love this, and the other one was like, I don't buy any of it. It's fun watching God work past those barriers, because you know that there's absolutely nothing that you're doing there in those situations, but it's all him and his work.
Thanks, everyone. It sounds like you guys had a great time. Back to whomever at APCC is running this thing.
Thanks.
Bye.